This is a very old school way of recording. We're gonna go over Mercury retrograde in August. These are my notes, but it says Mercury retrograde will begin August 4th and then it will end on August 28th with a shadow period that ends September 12th. This time Mercury retrograde will be transiting through Virgo and then it will go into Leo. Also, when Mercury retrograde is in Virgo, even though it's retrograde, it's in its domicile, meaning that Virgo and Gemini are at home in Mercury. So it's not the worst position for a Mercury retrograde. However, it will then go straight into Leo, which there's conflicting evidence on domicile rulerships in terms of like traditional Hellenistic astrology and modern astrology. Basically, in modern astrology, people tend to say that Leo in Mercury is not a positive position. However, that is not believed by traditional / Hellenistic / ancient astrologers. So basically, the astro girlies are feuding on what this means. Technically 5 p.m. of August 14th Vegas time, so West Coast time, you're gonna get, what do you call it, Mercury retrograde from Virgo to Leo. So from August 4th until August 14th, so 10 days it'll be in Virgo, and then August 14th until August 28th, I said, it'll be in Leo. You'll have it move from your 6th house to your 5th house, and you're looking at a Placidus chart and you're going, but Milk, my chart says that my 6th house is not Virgo, or da-da-da-da. Basically, I'm calculating it through Hellenistic equal whole house distribution. So basically what I'm saying is still right, whether or not you choose to use the system, it will still be accurate to you. Because if I were to compute your chart through this system, it would be accurate, if that makes sense. Aries risings, you will have Mercury retrograde go through your 6th house of gut, health, physical wellness, habits, and 5th house of marriage, fertility, passion, and artistic hobbies. So for the first 10 days of Mercury retrograde, you will be needing to reassess your diet, your routine, your wellness habits. Like, have you been feeling funky lately? Have you not been feeling your best in terms of actual health? Not even appearance, but just like your physical and mental health. You could be more motivated to change something around your work as well, because the 6th house can be work. The 6th house can also be pets. So this could be you maybe thinking about adopting a pet, or maybe you're like fed up with a pet that you adopted and you're like, I need to train this dog to stop peeing in my house. Like something around your routine is not working for you, so you need to reassess it and you need to change something about it. Things to avoid during this time with your 6th house, I would say avoid maybe some fad diet, like taking any kind of weird supplements or pills that you did not verify with a specialist. I'm a fellow Aries rising. I had to literally throw my digestive enzymes away that TikTok keeps shoving down everyone's throat because they were making me sick and bloated and actually gaining weight. So everything that like they marketed not to do. Long story short, yeah, I wouldn't try any new fad or crash dieting during this time. If anything, like light physical activity, trying new smoothies out, journaling, things that support your mental health. And then also after the first 10 days, after you've maybe reorganized something in your home or something in your lifestyle, it goes straight into your 5th house of marriage, fertility, hobbies, and passion. Now, this is just the ancient rulership of what that house means. I'm not saying that any of those things will specifically happen, especially because it's Mercury retrograde. Mercury retrograde is a reassessment period. It's not necessarily like a something new will happen period. So maybe you're gonna have an ex pop up texting you, blowing up your phone. Maybe you're gonna have situations around your relationships that need to be improved or like talked about, like new boundaries or I don't know, new situations in that area. Or maybe you have a passion project that you no longer feel passionate about and that you're going to change. You could be having talks about the future, like reassessing what you both want. If you're in a relationship, if you're single, maybe you're, I don't know, you're dating, but you're also maybe trying to reevaluate if you're holding on to a dynamic or a routine that's not that healthy for you. You are most likely, out of all the zodiac signs, you and Pisces and Aquarius risings are most likely to have or deal with situations around your exes randomly texting you or people from the past like resurfacing, and because this is the house of pleasure and passion, you could be revisiting old hobbies or artistic ventures that you used to really care about. Maybe you're falling back in love with old hobbies or passions that you used to care about. For Taurus risings, you will have Mercury retrograde go through your 5th house of marriage, fertility, passion, art, hobbies, and then eventually end up in your 4th house of home and family dynamics and what nurtures you. So in the first half of the Mercury retrograde, you could be reassessing something in your marriage or in your relationship. If you're single, you could be maybe figuring out what kind of qualities in a partner you don't want to go on dates with, or like changing which app maybe you're planning dates for. This could also be a time where people are revisiting conversations around like what life goals they want. Again, this is the house of marriage and fertility, but no, I'm not saying anything about those two things are going to happen just because a transit that's happening on a very general level is happening to many people during this time, so I don't want to scare you. But also, you are probably reassessing a certain hobby or a certain dynamic in your life that you no longer feel passionate about, that you either want to move away from or you want to work more with. You're basically questioning what you care about and whether or not it's the things that you've been committed to, or whether or not you want to go back to the basics in some way, whether this is in your relationships or in your, again, personal interests. And then also you will have it in your 4th house, and the 4th house will be themes around your family dynamics, maybe having to reaffirm certain boundaries or reassess like who has access to you or who's able to know certain information about you. You could be looking into buying property or things like that. However, I would not advise anyone to do that during the retrograde period, because especially like on impulse, say you just randomly wake up during retrograde and like log on to Zillow, and then you're like, oh, maybe I'm gonna inquire about this rental, and then you like try to actually get it within that same week. I would very much advise you not do that, because it's very much prone to not play out in the best way possible for you. But yeah, this is a great time for figuring out family dynamics that are important for you, enforcing healthier boundaries, maybe even just like renovating or redecorating your house or your living space. Something in your living space maybe isn't working for you, so you have to like readjust accordingly. If you're throwing out old bed sheets and getting new ones, like it doesn't have to be that deep. But for Gemini risings, Mercury retrograde goes through your 3rd house of communication, siblings, cars, and social media, and your 4th house of home, family, and what nurtures you. So for the first half of the Mercury retrograde, you could be like, dealing with things around your car. I don't want to scare you. It doesn't mean, like, I saw someone on TikTok say something really out of line a while back about like how if you have Mercury retrograde transits through your 3rd house, you're more prone to a car accident. Even though I understand that like the 3rd house rules cars, I think that's like so far-fetched. There's a lot of variables that go into like traumatic events. It's not just something that's that general. With that being said, you could probably have like to fix something with your car, fix your tires, get your oil changed, things like that. Nothing so intense. And also, I'm not saying like bad things can't happen during these times, but I usually more than not, it's because of many other things happening as well in your chart. It's not just like a Mercury retrograde, if that makes sense. However, I know for a fact one time I did have Mercury retrograde in my 3rd house, and I impulsively traded in my car, and then they tried to sneak on $10,000 in the payment. Thankfully, my mother-in-law was kind enough to go and fight them off and get that act-on charge removed. So those are situations that you may have to deal with if you're impulsive. You could also be like fixing or circling back to an old conversation with siblings that you may have like wanted to improve on or change. And then again, later it goes into your 4th house of home, family dynamics. So again, you're either expanding on like where you want to live, what things you want in your home. You could be just like planning for the future, thinking about the future. Something in your immediate life might need some kind of reassessment, like maybe your house is looking a little messy and it's time to clean it. I don't know, it could be like the general theme. And then Cancer risings, you have, oh wait, actually it originally will be in your 4th house and then your 3rd house. I just caught that because I was like, your 4th house is not Leo. That'll go from your 4th house to your 3rd house. Hi, so I forgot Cancer risings in the Mercury retrograde horoscope, which is incredibly frustrating. I don't know why I keep doing this stuff, which is a reoccurring thing. Anyways, so Cancer risings, you guys will have Mercury retrograde in Virgo and Leo. First Virgo in your 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so first in your 3rd house of cars, siblings, and social media. So you might need to just be a little bit more careful about like what you put online. You could maybe be reevaluating something with your siblings, or maybe having to assert a boundary with family members. You may have to fix something with your car, nothing dramatic, but it could be like oil changes and things like that. And then later when it goes into Leo, it'll be in your 2nd house of finances and emotional attachments. So you could be maybe reinforcing certain boundaries with certain people. You could also be heavily reassessing your spending habits and where your money's going, or if Maybe it's time to cancel certain subscriptions. This could also be a time of needing to be a bit more clear about your boundaries in terms of like who has access to you. You could have to maybe reflect on certain relationships. You may also be more prone to people coming back out of the woodwork and like trying to reconnect with you or trying to, I don't know, make amends. But a good rule of thumb with that is if they left on bad terms, maybe don't take them back, especially during a Mercury retrograde. Then lastly, this is mainly a focus on what is meaningful to you, so you could just be reassessing what is important and who is important during this time. I wouldn't say to like make any hasty decisions on impulse, but I would say to definitely reflect and validate the thoughts or feelings that come up during this time, because you're most likely more prone to gain a meaningful revelation or understanding because of Mercury retrograde. Leo risings, it will go from your second house to your first house. Okay, I didn't switch that one up for some reason. So Leo risings, it'll be in your second house at first of financial and emotional attachments. This is like basically where you put your money and where you put all your energy throughout the day. Like when it's not tied to work or like obligations, like what you do with that time, like who you call, who you text, who you invest your attention towards, and also what you invest your attention towards and your money towards, like me buying way too many books. So yeah, so that could be essentially what is needing to be reassessed or cleaned up. What you could be reevaluating too is like, wow, I put X amount of time and money and energy into this thing and I'm not getting back something that feels equally energy matched, or like I'm not getting enough out of what I put my money towards. You could be, I mean, technically more so for Aquarius risings, but you too could also be like canceling subscriptions or reassessing, you know, where your money's going or who is around you. And then also when it goes to your first house, you could be heavily reassessing both your identity on a core level, like what morals you stand for, what politics you believe, what philosophies you adopt to or adhere to, but then also you could be more restless about your physical appearance, which tends to always happen when Mercury retrograde hits someone's ascendant. However, like heavily, I beg of you, put the scissors down. There is very rarely is there a positive outcome with a Mercury retrograde and a physical appearance change. I would also like avoid surgeries or any kind of things like that if you can. Obviously, if it's an emergency surgery, don't let a general astrological transit stop you. Like, this is just a surface level, this is just one placement, okay? There's many other variables going on in a person's chart. It's not just like, I don't know. Anyways, it's much deeper than that. So basically, you don't have to, like, if it's life or death, obviously don't like put off a surgery for this YouTube video, you know? But what am I gonna say? But yeah, I would avoid any physical changes, but this is a great time for like thinking about your future goals with your hair or like future tattoos. Like, not a bad time to make Pinterest boards and go crazy on them, but I would beg of you to try to hold off at the very least when Mercury retrograde is on your ascendant. So like the first 10 days of Mercury retrograde when it's in your second house, go crazy. Do I technically advise this? Not really, but it's safer than if you have to do it, it's safer than if it's on your ascendant. So you could be reassessing like your own boundaries with yourself and also with other people. Like Mercury retrograde on the ascendant is like, am I really gonna let people talk to me like that? Am I really gonna do this? Like, it's those kinds of realizations. And then Virgo risings, Mercury retrograde goes through your first house of self, similarly to what I just said about Leo risings, and how you go after things, and then it eventually goes into your 12th house of hidden enemies, illness, and mental health. So let's talk first about the first house, because I literally just said this, babes. So it'll cover things around your physical appearance, but also your core feelings and identity. So you'll be questioning like, I don't really like how that person takes that tone with me all the time. Why do I always tolerate that? Or like, you know, enforcing different boundaries around how you assert your presence and how you let other people kind of speak to you in that sense. It could also be like what philosophies you adopt, what politics you believe. You could be changing things more inwardly, like reflecting on what you like, what you want, who you are, who you want to be, if it's time to change something on a more emotional level. But then you could also be having those like physical restlessness of like, oh my god, I really need to just go and dye my hair, I need to go get a tattoo. Obviously I would avoid you do it when Mercury retrograde is in Virgo on your ascendant for the first 10 days. If you have to do it after the first 10 days. Technically, I would say the safest bet for everyone is after September 12th when we are out of shadow period, but you're gonna do what you're gonna do. And I'm the worst person to also, like, I will always tell people not to do something and I will do it. Getting my car during a Mercury retrograde, getting physical appearance changes during a Venus retrograde, getting engaged during a Venus retrograde. So basically take it with a grain of salt, but these are good things to keep in mind because boy did I have issues when I tried to buy a car during Mercury retrograde or get a haircut. So okay, and then it goes into your 12th house. So this is not saying, oh no, what did I do? Okay, this is not saying that you are going to have some kind of illness or anything. I'm not saying that you're gonna get sick, but people are more prone to feel fatigue or feel worn down or feel tired. So, you know, it doesn't hurt you to boost your vitamin C. It doesn't hurt you to implement more veggies into your routine. But with that being said, Mercury retrograde in the 12th house for me is more like paranoia heightened. You're more hyper aware, like your intuition is louder. You're more reassessing of people's ulterior motives towards you. I don't think that you should use that as an excuse to psych yourself out and isolate during that time, but I do think that you're going to feel more like hyper aware during that time for those reasons. So my advice to you is just to do things that boost like your sense of like self and sense of like healing, watching good movies, reading good books. I would limit a lot of social events or communications if possible, only because I feel like it's just going to be draining for you. I feel like you're going to be more prone to, like, I don't know, get in your head basically. I do think that some of the realizations you'll have during this time are very helpful, like learning basically who people are, where they stand with you, what they want from you. It's good to validate those thoughts, but I wouldn't like let them lead you. Like, don't let a projected fear lead you in general, but also specifically now. Yeah, and also like prioritize your mental health heavily, because this is the house of mental health. So like do things like, you know, if you feel crappy after having 2 glasses of wine, maybe like have a glass of wine the next time you drink, or like maybe cut out alcohol while you're going through this Mercury retrograde period, and instead, I don't know, adopt the Sleepy Girl mocktail, which is like a magnesium and cherry drink, which I've been drinking at night. But anyways, Libra risings, you guys will have Mercury retrograde in your 12th house of hidden enemies, mental health, and illness, and then it'll eventually go into your 11th house. So for the first 10 days of Mercury retrograde, you're gonna probably be in your head more, a little bit paranoid. You could be feeling like people's like you're more intuitive about where people stand with you, what they want from you. You're also a little bit more suspicious. I wouldn't say like completely go into isolation for the first 10 days, but I will say that social interactions will feel more draining than they need to be. It can make you a little bit more in your head. I'm not saying to gaslight yourself and say like everything's fine when it's not, because some of the things that will come to light are very helpful for you to learn like who you want around you moving forward. But I would just say like don't overreact. Take note of things and keep it to yourself, but I wouldn't like react or pounce on something based off of a projected fear that's not actually confirmed. And then later it will move into your 11th house of friendships, social media, community, networking. You could be having something around the internet pop up or resurface. I don't know, like usually when those influencers have like old tweets come up, I wouldn't be surprised if they had like a Mercury retrograde in their 11th house. Not to say that everyone's gonna get canceled either during their Mercury retrograde period, because that's not always true either, but you could just be reassessing who you want to be friends with. You could be feeling like your friends are not always, I don't know, showing up for you in ways that you need them to. There could be situations around friendships or social media brought back up that you have to like tie up loose ends with, or you have to like address in some way, but it could be helpful for your growth and like for learning who's really in your corner, if that makes sense. So it's not the worst. It's not the best, but it's not the worst. Scorpio risings have Mercury retrograde going through their 11th house, and then will eventually go into their 10th house. So when it's in your 11th house, it'll be going through themes around social media, friendships, community, and networking. You could be readjusting who you want who to have access to you, who your friends are. Again, like themes around social media and friends could be coming back up from the past, like old tweets resurfacing. Old friends could be popping back up who like left on bad terms. And it's really important too to remember, like, don't give people chances during a retrograde period if they left on really, really bad terms. If it wasn't that serious and they're just popping up because they missed you or they thought about you, that's different. But if it's like you guys had a huge falling out that was super traumatizing, or like a core memory in your life, I would validate that and like avoid that person. It will go into, oh yeah, and then it'll go into your 10th house of career and reputation. So kind of similar themes to the 11th house in the sense of like how people view you, how you view yourself in those dynamics. But you could also be wanting to change something around your job. You could be assessing something around your work environment that no longer is beneficial or working for you. You could also be maybe thinking about, oh, maybe I should just start fixing up my resume, or maybe I should start submitting my applications to these spaces. You could also be maybe revisiting conversations with colleagues or bosses around things that you need, whether it's like boundaries or certain goals within the company, like following up on an application for a promotional opportunity. Those are all things that could be also happening. Sagittarius risings, for the first 10 days, it will be in your 10th house of career and reputation. You could be changing something with your career, either deciding you want to eventually leave your career, or starting to take note of certain things that don't sit right with you. You could be having conversations with your boss or employers, or you could just be thinking about starting your own side business later on. And then after the first 10 days, it'll go into your 9th house of long-term travel, education, and philosophy. So you could be contemplating either like changing your major, dropping out of school, or going back to school. You could be thinking about booking a vacation. I would say hold off specifically on those two things until the retrograde period ends, but validate those thoughts, like do the research or maybe like look into it, but I wouldn't say to act on it until September 12th, when we're completely out of the shadow period. Yeah, also if you already have a trip planned or something, I'm not gonna say it's the end of the world, but you may experience more complications with flying or like with like delays in your travels, but I wouldn't say it's gonna be like earth-shattering. It's more of just like very annoying. Sorry, yeah. And then Capricorn risings, you're going to have Mercury retrograde in your 9th house of philosophy, long travel, and education. So again, you're going to be maybe thinking about going back to school, dropping out of school, changing majors, or you're going to be thinking about booking a vacation. This is a great time to do research for those things, but not to actually act on it. So like don't do those things yet. If you already have a vacation booked and you're just like going on it, that's not bad, that's not terrible, but you're probably gonna experience more nuance or more like complications that arise, like small mundane things that just like are very annoying, like delays and things like that. And then it's going to also be in your 8th house for the rest of the Mercury retrograde after the first 10 days. And the 8th house is other people's money in our life, other people's emotional attachment in our life, our credit cards, our loans, our debts. It is like death and transformation, but it's never usually like the tarot card death never usually is actual literal death. It's usually just like phasing out certain things of your life, or maybe bringing back, recircling through old things that you thought you put away or that you thought you healed from, and then like learning to actually truly get to the bottom of it. So in the first half of the, or excuse me, in the second half of the month, you could be canceling subscriptions or memberships for things that you just feel are no longer benefiting you. You could be thinking about signing up to new things that you feel are more beneficial for both your finances and your emotions. You could also be adjusting who has access to you. You could be learning like you don't really like the vibe around certain people. Certain people feel like they've done X, Y, and Z for you, so they feel like entitled to your time and your energy, and you could be putting up boundaries, or just learning that just because someone's nice to you doesn't mean you owe them something, on a very base level. And also some of you could be just maybe, I don't know, changing your beliefs or practices around what kind of people you want around you, who like what kind of things you believe in, and how those two coincide. Yeah, but mostly you will be probably cleaning up credit card debt if you live, I think, in America. There's one place with credit card debt. And you could also be, yeah, I would avoid signing any documents during this time, or opening up new credit cards, or taking out any loans. I would hold off until after the retrograde period. Aquarius risings, You will also be going through those similar things I just spoke about with Capricorn. It'll be in your 8th house before it goes into your 7th house. So cleaning up credit card debt, paying off loans, adjusting who has access to you, learning that just because someone's done something for you doesn't mean you owe them anything. Like people who in your life are giving you maybe like their money or their energy have been feeling like very entitled to you, and you could be adjusting like how they talk to you or the tone that how they have access to you. And then you could also be, again, just like thinking about how to clean up your credit card debt, which subscriptions to cancel, what's no longer serving you. And then it'll end up in your 7th house. And okay, so I argue with people about this because some people will say 7th house is marriage and long relationships. I disagree. I say that's 5th house. I think 7th house is like your interactions with literally everyone, like going to the gas station and talking to someone in line, someone that's ringing you up, going home, or you know, or going to work. It's like everywhere, anyone at all. So with that being said, I think that like you're going to maybe have a lot of weirder interactions with people, but it could also be helpful to you in terms of like asserting boundaries, figuring out it could be figuring out who has access to you, who you want to have access to you, that kind of thing. And then Pisces risings, you will have Mercury retrograde in your 7th house, and then it will later move into your 6th house. Yeah, so Aquarius will just be changing boundaries around who has access to them, changing their tone with how they talk to people, or who they allow into their social circle. You could be just adjusting the tone you set in terms of your interactions. That could be both very draining and also very helpful for you in terms of long-term goals. And then Pisces risings, you will have Mercury retrograde go through your 7th house and then your 6th house. So the 7th house themes will be, again, setting the tone for who, like how you talk to people and how you let people talk to you. Like you're gonna have a lot of strange interactions with people, like very, like literally anyone, like the gas station, work, home, but it could also be a very helpful time for like navigating, again, how to like assert your boundaries or to be clear about certain things that you want or that you're not okay with. You could be kind of forced to be a little bit more vocal in a way that's beneficial to you. However, you could also be more prone to like very uncomfortable conversations, and it could feel a little bit more draining during this time. I would say limiting social activity would be ideal for this time. And then later it'll end up in your 6th house, so you could be reassessing your health, needing to move your body more, needing to be more conscious of what you eat, or you know, certain habits or routines, in the sense of like, oh, I feel really sick after eating that, maybe I have a gluten allergy, you know, or oh, like maybe I should have a fruit this week, you know, things like that. You could also just be like wanting to go on more daily walks, or just think of your physical health and not on a surface level, but on like a what feels good internally for you. This could also be a time where you're thinking about cleaning up your house, changing something in your routine, or maybe even like training your pets more if you feel like they are not that trained. So yeah, overall that completes this video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up, and all my links are down below, and I'm about to record the new moon video.